Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel, honey. If you haven't had a chance to do so by now, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share because we all know that sharing is caring, bitch. And to go a step further, tap the notification bell. That way, you'll be updated every time I'm uploading something new to the channel. And welcome back to another episode of the Yes God Roundtable, honey, season 4, episode 8. What's up, Kat? How you doing?
I'm good. Whole weekend for sure. So I'm a little tired, but this is the start of a new week, so I'm looking forward to opportunities and just another great week.
Amen. Conscious TV probably will be joining us shortly. I know TREMEL probably will be popping in later on as well. And welcome everybody. Again, we do appreciate you. Again, be sure to thumbs up the video, honey, and engage into the platform. Everyone that is part of this panel, the Cat's Meow, TREMEL, and Conscious TV, their information is in the description box. So click those links so you have easy access to their platforms. That way you can support, bitch. Okay. Hello, God. My week has been good.
That's good.
It's been well. I was sick. I'm still. How can I put it? Because I was sick last month, child, and it was the same exact type of sickness. This one was less. Like before, I was for sure it was bronchitis or something. This time, I felt like it was bronchitis, but I didn't have the coughing,
Okay.
and I didn't have like the. I did have some. So I was like, bitch, what's the tea? Like back to back? Like, no, bitch. Like, I take pride in having a pretty healthy immune system. But, I have been doing a lot more, going on a lot more. And I'm just like so scared to catch the, you know what, girl, the bitch, the choker of life, girl. Like, I just don't.
People
I'm
still negate the fact that it's out there. Like we just don't
yeah.
talk about it and highlight it anymore. But we are still living in a pandemonium. So, yeah.
And I'm still like, I'm at the level now where because next year I'm trying to do some things like out of the country teas, I have to consider taking the all saving grace.
hmm
And girl, I don't know how I feel about that yet.
I'm one for them, one for out. So of course, if you didn't take the Johnson and Johnson all saving grace, then there were two that you needed to take. I took one.
Mm.
Just to gauge on how I feel. If I give it a couple months, if I feel okay, then I'll consider going back and getting the other one.
Hey,
Subconscious.
Connie.
But other than
Hey, boo.
that, especially if all of this shit goes away and I won't need it, what's the point of getting it? Because my
I'm not. Can I tell you the truth on something? And this is my thought. What if, just what if, 10, 20 years from now, because everyone has taken the all saving grace, it does something. Like that's my greatest fear is like it may not be something that we see or feeling now, but like what if this does something? That's I know that I have probably one of those conspiracy
yeah,
theories kind of bitches, but I'm just always thinking like what if it creates another gene girl and we over here mutating into animals, bitch, or the
I don't,
girls can't get pregnant anymore.
I don't think it's that serious. Simply because this is just a stronger case of influenza. Like
Yeah.
we've been taking immunizations since we were kids. This is just another immunization. This is another. We were taking vaccine for years. Swine
But
flu.
when we look at people like shout out to Oliver Twix, and for those who haven't seen the latest episode of Chasing Atlanta, honey, hello God, Oliver's mom took the all saving grace, and more than likely had pre-existing conditions that she knew not about. Ended up getting an enlarged heart because of that.
I
And
understand.
now she's suffering from health problems.
I
So I
understand.
mean,
Those are
for the
isolated
kid,
issues, though. Every time they come out with a vaccine or an immunization, it's not foolproof. Certain people are going to have reactions. This is not the first time that a vaccine or something preventative has killed somebody, to be quite honest. We are test monkeys in a sense. But yeah, this isn't the first time. And it ain't going to be the last.
I think me and you had this conversation about animal life. Like it's crazy how something had to die in order to know that it was dangerous. Like how the first elephant ate that poisonous berry child, and now it's locked into their traditions. Girl, don't eat that berry.
Right.
And I think this may be one of those situations, but I just don't like playing with people's lives on that level. Like, because not many people know what their pre-existing conditions are, because healthcare is not affordable. If healthcare was affordable, a lot of more people would take the presentive examinations and, you know, be willing to know those things. That, you know what I mean? Like,
I understand. But I mean,
and it is very minuscule. I'm not gonna lie, the numbers are very minuscule compared to how many people are surviving and actually thriving and all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Welcome everybody into the chat. Hey Joshua, I'm looking like trade. Give me your money, bitch. Yeah, that's funny. So what's going on, Conscious? How you been?
I have been great. I had jumped on my platform and went live before I got over here because some breaking news about Kurt Franklin's son, just like hit the airwaves, and it's just like
what's going on with her? What's going on with her? With sus?
Girl, well, sis allegedly might be connected to a murder. Allegedly. My mentor Larry Reed just reported that Kerryon Franklin caught him from jail. Kerryon claims that he was initially pulled over for a broken taillight in Los Angeles, but upon police inspecting the vehicle, they also found a gun in the car, and the owner of the vehicle, the car that Kerryon is driving around in, the owner turned up murdered. So he's now sitting in jail. No one can get him out. Because he also has previous charges in Texas. So they have to expedite him from LA to Texas. And it's just a fucking mess. So, but Kerryon is claiming he's innocent. That he's also being charged with resisting arrest. He's just saying all of that has been put on him. He's being set up. Boom, pow, boom, pow. So, yeah. The bad boy is unfortunately living up to that.
For all we know, let me tell you this now, and again, putting my conspiracy theorist hat on, when you go to speaking out about those church girls, when you go to going against those bigger folks, child, you never know what they'll do to you. We always laugh and we discourage and we think that it's a game, but there are people out here, girl, who will sweep you up in this life to get you away because your mouth is too vocal. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone did set him up, child.
Do you know what's also wild about this? Is that the guy named CJ, who had initially exposed the audios, those infamous audios of Kerryon,
he's dead too.
He passed away under some very bizarre.
He overdosed, right? Allegedly.
Yeah. So
really.
So they're picking them all off, all the witnesses to the T.
Allegedly. It's a mess.
I was just talking about how I'm happy all these episodes of this season of the Roundtable have been monetized, but child, I guess once they run this early out there, look at her for to pluck her right out here. The UFOs are gonna come, girl, and abduct the hell out of our asses, child. Take me away. I'm ready to go. This earth is getting on my nerves anyway, girl. Jesus. Well, okay. All right. Well, that's kind of crazy because like he's going through his own growing pains, and that's the title of this episode, "Growing Pains, Child."
I see what you did there. Okay. Okay.
Prayers left for Kerryon, child. If she didn't do it, then let her be free, child. You know what I'm saying? If she did do it, lock the bitch up, and she'll be getting everything that she wants while she's locked up.
Hashtag free Jesse.
Yeah. They shall hunger no more. Neither shall they thirst anymore.
Oh no, they give you food and water in jail.
Girl, I'm not eating and drinking none of that stuff. You get lead poisoning, you get all kinds of whatever.
I would suggest you wouldn't or get bottled water because the faucet is connected to the toilet.
Girl, I am having sex with one of the biggest, most well-respected C-block leaders, child, that's out there. So I'll be well taken care of with ramen noodles, girl, peanut butter jelly sandwiches, and whatever that little egg foo young mix is that they make, girl, with the chips and the Takis.
Oh, a spread.
A spread, yes, God, honey. Well, then again, that's not healthy for a bottom, though, is it?
Well, there are ways to dish in jail.
Yep. Prison is a
Growing pains, child. Yes,
Growing
God.
pains, yeah, growing pains.
Yes, God. So, all right, everyone. So, what made me want to have this conversation piece today about growing pains is this. If you guys remember, for those that follow the platform, you'll know that I briefly had a conversation a few months back about this generation feeling as if their experiences are exclusive to them, not realizing that life is an everlasting girl rewind session. The game never changes, only the players do. Everything that previous generations have gone through, girl, you ever said it to your set back to yourself and said, bitch, fuck these old people, what do they know? And then when you become one of those old people, you're like, damn, they were on the spot, girl, with what they were talking about. You will forever go through what someone else has been through. It may not be the exact same way, but I guarantee you it's going to be right along those lines, right? So I wanted to kick it up a notch, and I also wanted to talk about like the learning process of life, because I think we're all old enough now to where we can look back and reflect and retrospect, girl, and be like, damn, like a moment in time or a few moments in time where you were like thinking that what you were going through was exclusive to you. But the mistake that you made was not realizing that, girl. Well, as you got older, you realize that you have more in common with people that went through the same thing you did. Like for me, I'll kick it off. For instance, body insecurities. When you're young, girl, and growing up, and especially as a man, right? You have all these other little toxic fuckers that you grow up around, and you end up becoming a little insecure when you don't add up to the rest of everybody else who's your age or in your age range, right? Like whether it's like, because one big thing for me was weight. When I was younger, I was fat and stout. Child, I looked like Elmer Fudd, bitch. It was a hot mess. Like I thought I was going to be a short, fat, piggly wiggly for the rest of my life. It was horrible. I really did look like that thing from the Lion King child, Pumbaa and Timon girl. It was a mess. I was like, when is my growth spurt going to happen? Like I did not want to be that way. So I would stop eating sometimes. I would force myself to throw up. I'm not even lying, child. Like I so young, I think, like maybe 10, 11 years old. It got to the point where I was living in, y'all know my foster care journey, but I was living in these certain institutions, girl, that would put weight restrictions on me and force me to only eat a certain calorie meal a day. So that also made me body conscious. Like, damn, if these
stuff like that.
Yeah. Sure. And it stuck with me. And I was like, okay, girl, I have no choice. Like, even the way you look like as a man, I was like, okay, when is I want a six pack too. I want to look this way too, even when it comes down to physical attributes. I think young men also have an issue, and grown people have these issues too, where they feel like peeing is not adding up. Hello, God. So that creates another, for those that know what peeing is, it's dick. Okay. Hello, God. So you end up getting into these really insecure, fallen moments with yourself. And it can really fuck you up.
Yeah.
But again, you think you're alone because again, you think this is embarrassing things. Like even hair growth. I hated the fact that I didn't grow hair like the rest of the boys around me. I didn't start growing hair on my body until I was like maybe 18.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a real, what they would call a smooth twink. Child, I was in that category, but I hated it because like I was involved in martial arts and boxing and all these different type of, masculine areas, child. And everyone I grew up with played football. So I'm looking at all these young niggas and I'm like, well, damn, like, why don't I have hair? Why am I not tall? Why am I not built? Or, why? It just created so much wrong. So I want to say for me, that was one of the biggest mistakes. Again, I was not alone. Come to find out, looking back, a lot of motherfuckers go through the same exact transitions in their life. And it's more so predominantly around the early teens to the late teens kind of vibe. And once you become like in your 20s, you start to not really give too much of a fuck because you were already coming into who you really are. At least that's how it was for me. I know there's some late bloomers out here in the world, child, but I was an early bitch because life served me real tea. So I had no choice but to drink that real tea and become a real bitch. Hello, God. Any of y'all want to, chime in?
Mine was anxiety. And it's perfect that you said that because I was sort of like the inverse. I was the late bloomer. My parents have sheltered me my entire life, still call me. My mama called me today just to say she saw me at church. And I just, I've always been sheltered by my parents, so I didn't really get to experience like the harshness of life until my 20s. So, because I was always surrounded around people who loved me and cared about me. Yeah, I had, people at school, fiddle faddle, but it was never like really tough on me. I could just be like, fuck them and go hang with my friends. But social anxiety just became a huge thing for me. And even now, like I'm a lot better with it, but I found myself last Sunday, I'll give y'all an example. I sat down, and a girl was like, hey, I have two friends that are coming. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So I scoot over or whatever. Two queens, a tall queen and a fat queen. Sit down, and my mind immediately was just like, police yourself. Don't be uninhibited with your praise. Police yourself. Be aware of your surroundings because they are watching you and they are judging you. And it took me seeing them interact with society because they were visitors. So when the pastor asked for the visitors to stand up, they were kind of looking at each other nervously, like, I'll do it if you do it. And I kind of laughed to myself, and I was just like, you're worried about the opinion of two people who are concerned about everybody else's opinion. Don't give a fuck what they think, because they care about what they probably care more about what you think of them than you thinking about what they think of you. So while I'm sitting here like trying to brace myself to be judged by people, we're all in the same boat of trying to impress everybody around us. So it's not really, just take the pressure off, because these ain't nobody to impress. These people ain't nobody to impress. And once I let that settle in and just kind of like nurture that inner child, like, you have nothing to be afraid of, nothing is going to happen to you. Like, even if they are judging you, just get that out of your mind, because that's not your business anyway. What they're thinking is not your concern. So you just go ahead and do what you came. Hey, really, B, do what you came. And I called you boo. Do what you came here to do and pioneer through. But I wanted to give that particular example because it's not something that I experienced as a child, and I shook. I still go through it. So sometimes the thorn in your side, as they say in church or whatever it is, it'll continue to happen. You need to find a coping mechanism to build the strength to combat that. It will not go away. Like depression, it's not like, oh, once I'm feeling better, I'm done with depression. Nobody beats depression. It's like asthma. You will always have it.
Period. I got to piggyback off of what Pat said. I wish somebody very, very early on in my life would have told me that there's no inherent substance to other people's opinion of me.
Yeah.
I was always a very artistic person. I've always like had an interest in being very much so an individual. Always wanted to kind of show up differently than everybody else did. Always kind of had a different attitude about fashion, about beauty, about just how I could exist in my body, how I could show up in clothes, how I could present myself. And I experienced my fair share of criticism, especially like when I got to high school and I started kind of becoming more myself, becoming more aware of who the fuck I am. And I wasn't willing to back down. But also, like, there was no conversation for me around, to Kat's point, like, why those opinions don't matter. I didn't know they didn't matter. So it just so happens that it didn't take too much time for me to not give a fuck. But I just felt like my experience of growing into myself and then having to deal with a very judgmental world could have been less of an undertaking for me had I had parents that encouraged me to not care outside of the people that matter, to not care about the thoughts and the opinions of folk outside of myself. And I was already different, so that already can feel very isolating. So I definitely didn't feel like there was anybody who could relate, because I wasn't around other people who was out of the box. Everybody else was kind of like doing what they had to do in order to belong, in order to fit, in order to be accepted. So I was kind of like the fucking Madonna or the Janet Jackson to the group, always like doing the shit that was bending people's minds. So there was definitely a sense of loneliness. And despite how popular I was growing up, I was one of those people who still felt alone, despite being surrounded by so many people. But I just want to tell young people, like, we really believe in the judgments of other people when we don't know any better. Please don't wait until you're 30, until you're 40, until you're 50 to realize that you don't need anybody's motherfucking permission to show up and to be who the fuck you are. You have just as much of a motherfucking right to wrap your ass around this earth 30 degrees from east to damn west. And you don't need to consult with anybody. You don't need anybody's affirmation. You belong here by very right of your manifestation in this earth. You are supposed to be here. And so I really wish that parents would be more encouraging, because being young and growing up around peers and school and all of that, this is a big time in a lot of people's development and sense of self. And depending on how you set up, that stuff can either make or break your adulthood. So I think parents need to realize that you need to support like your children's identity, and you need to just reinforce that, because there's going to be a lot of pull and tugging on a wig outside of those safe spaces, and your children have to be able to exist and be strong and have a solidarity within themselves outside of your protection. So, and that's another thing too. Like I felt embarrassed to talk to my parents about some of the shit I was going through in school, probably because I was a boy. I felt like I was expected to be able to defend myself, kind of like I should be able to take whatever. I'm a man. So I did my fair share of sucking it up and just kind of taking shit on my chin. But yeah, that was just one of those things. Coming into my own and not having like a lot of encouragement around that was just a lot to deal with. But you couldn't pay me now to live differently. You couldn't pay me now to have several seats.
Yeah.
One of the things that gets me too with that experience is the loneliness that takes place in those time periods. Like, again, because you feel so disconnected, or not even just that, or you just feel like you're the only one experiencing that. And I think it's important for everyone to know, of all walks of life, not just young people, but people our age and older, is that you're not alone in your experiences.
Oh my God.
What happened?
I don't want to, I just had a revelation. I don't want to put too much on my parents, but my social anxiety was given to me. I was taught to care what other people thought. Now that I think about it, I was taught to do that. You know, like, I had to live up to an expectation. And I think that a lot of times parents forget that kids are people, not property. Like, I'm a person, and we talk a lot of shit about, you know, young, famous, and African. But what I love about Connie's story as it related to her daughter, she was like, even if you have multiple children, I've never been your mom before, and you've never been here before. We are learning each other, and this is a partnership, really. You know, I need to learn who you are, and we need to coexist and make this thing work. Whereas my parents, I'm just gonna put it on me, were, you know, conservative, and they still are, and really concerned with what the church. I'm thinking, you know, so I had to fall in line with that. And if what my life looked like colored outside of those lines, it wasn't cool. It wasn't right. I didn't need to do that. And I think I took that and I applied that to the world. Instead of caring about what people who I cared about thought about me, I cared about what everybody thought about me. And I kind of lost myself in that. And I don't blame them, you know, because I understand now as an adult that my parents were just doing the best they thought they could, you know. And I'm sure they did a bang up job, because they raised me a whole lot better than their parents raised them, because they learned from those mistakes, but they still, you know, did their very best. And yeah. And what I love about my parents now is that they're open to my, like, okay, let's not do this anymore. You know, as an adult, this doesn't really work for me. Let's try to do it this way. You know, let's have conversations, because I'm not a kid anymore. And I will get the fuck out, and you will never see me again. And I love y'all, but I'm not going to deal with this. I'm just not about to deal with unnecessary energy, especially dictating, you know, how I should move. because obviously it had an effect on my life. I'm still dealing with social anxiety. And Josh, I have to disagree. I honestly believe that if you can say that you've beat depression, then you had a depressive episode, or you were, there's a such thing as situational depression. So a certain circumstance can make you depressed, but being depressed is like living with a life altering ailment. You just have it. If you
Honey, let
have
me
it,
tell you something about depression. Depression is like the air, it's invisible, it's always around you. Moments of storms is when you feel her move a little bit more, but it's never gone.
yeah.
So, Josh, I
People
want you to understand that you can
life.
talk to any therapist, any psychiatrist, and they'll tell you depression is one thing that never, ever, ever, ever leaves, baby.
Mm-mm.
Sorry. It's hovering in the ether. Even when you're happiest, it's hovering on the ether.
Mm-hmm.
Trust. It's like, you can't
The
defeat
people who
it,
coast
baby.
through life, they coast through life that way because they have found mechanisms and practices and exercises to kind of stabilize when the shit comes. Okay, I have this to combat this. I have this to combat that. So you kind of never see them in a downward spiral. But if they have ever dealt with depression, and not just feeling upset or sad about something, like depression,
Yeah.
they got it for life, baby. Sorry to say,
I want to add to that and say that I I, I take an attitude that every human being suffers from depression. Is
Mm-hmm.
why we strive toward happiness. We wouldn't have to strive toward or pursue happiness if there wasn't some underlining sense of misery and agony and sadness that exists within our psyche. So I feel like for those who are living happy lives, to Kat's point, yeah, until that great marriage is no longer there, until you have to bury your firstborn, until your health goes out of the window, until your finances are depleted and you're filing bankruptcy, until. And so for the happy-go-lucky people, like, they have just, to Kat's point, managed to put in place the things that can stabilize and maintain the continuity of their joy. But I feel like all of us as human beings are really suffering from depression, which is why we have to make an active effort to live healthy lives.
I believe the nation is depressed. I believe America, not as a body of people. I believe the literal nation is depressed, which is why we have been living in a pandemonium for going on 3 years. Mama is sick of all of our shit. Like, she's depressed. For real. North America didn't have it.
Child, but Mother Earth is depressed. She's about to shake all of us off the family tree, bitch. She's about to shake the devil off, honey, and that the devil is us, because we come to do her harm.
No, if you find the root of the depression, you can manage it. That shit is gonna always come back. It's gonna always be a different root. Always. Some days you can be depressed just because it's a fucking Tuesday. That's what I'm saying. That's what depression is. It's sometimes you don't need a reason. If you have a reason,
you can't. And the one thing about depression is you can't really quantify it. Like I said before, it's like the air. It's invisible. It's intangible. You can't touch it. It hovers in the ether of life. It is almost like the fucking ozone layer. You can't see it, but it's there. But you know what I'm saying? Like, come on now. I wonder, Josh, have you ever dealt with depression before? That's a question I have for you. But I would like to, move on to something else.
I wonder if Joshua is speaking about chronic depression. Because while I will accept that all human beings generally suffer from depression and some people just have better management skills than others, that there is like chronic depression. And there was a time in my life where I was chronically depressed, meaning that it didn't matter. Everything could be going right and I was still fucking sad. I was still depressed. Like, I had nothing to even complain about. I had nothing to even be worried about hitting the lottery at this fucking point. And yet there was still this like burden. I felt burdened emotionally. Now I've learned a lot about what it means to be an empath over the past few years of my life. And so I understand that a lot of those dynamics I do attribute to being an empath and being unconscious in my empathicness. But joy is a real thing too. Like, human beings are just a doorway. That pendulum swings from one extreme to the other extreme and then back again. And that's why we're using the key word here, management, managing the dynamics of our lives and the way we think about things, so that when that pendulum swings to the right, we can recalibrate and be and regulated and have a sense of self still, even when things are falling apart. But
yeah, for sure. And depression looks different for everybody. It isn't a monolith. Like, it is very vast. So many different symptoms can kind of lead to the doorway of depression. I learned that too. I was depressed on days where I thought I was just fine. I remember I was talking to you not to put our business out, but I remember I was talking to you one time, YB, and I was like, "Bitch, you're depressed." Like, in his mind, he was just tired, and I'm like, I talk to you every day. You're depressed. Sometimes you don't know what it looks like. That's happened to me a couple of times.
I have a best friend. I just told him recently, baby, you depressed. You are functionally depressed, because he struggles to like be productive. Even though he works a full-time job, it's just like he's dragging his feet to do the things that actually would better improve his circumstances, and he's always dragging his feet. And then when I was telling him, I'm like, boo, I think you're depressed and you don't know it, because it shouldn't require this much fight for you to do what's in your best interest for yourself.
Absolutely.
You're having to fight to do what's right for you. There's something going on.
And learn to take the pressure off of yourself. Just like I was talking about my parents, you are doing the best you can. Take the pressure off of yourself. You have nobody to please but yourself and your higher power. That is it. You don't have to live up to everybody else's standards. Don't try.
Josh, you stated that you have mechanisms and it helps, and the prayer helps as well. So that tells me that it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Mechanisms aren't the cure. They're the tools we use to, battle these things when they actually do come over our lives. So you are technically admitting that it's still something you deal with. Even if you don't think you're dealing with it, it still can come. And if I don't want to keep on, dragging it. Like you said before, it's a large spectrum. There's many levels to depression. There's the very small and meager to the very large and dark. You know what I mean?
And you're proof, because I'm with you. I don't take medication.
Yeah.
You've replaced medication with the mechanisms in the prayer. So just instead of taking, antidepressants, you've learned a holistic way to deal with it, which I commend. I hate antidepressants. So I do the same thing as you. I exercise, I pray, I meditate, I have words of affirmation on my calendar. Just little things to just remind me that I'm enough, on days where I'm not feeling my best.
But you have to, because at the end of the day, I always want to tell people this. You have to be your own savior sometimes. No one is going to save you. You have to look at life that way. Even though we have friends, we have family, we have loved ones, people that really care about us, you have to look at life. No one is going to save you, bitch. You have to be able to save yourself. You have to reach deep down into the darkest trenches of your motherfucking soul, and you have to pull yourself up out of it.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
You cannot pour from an empty cup. So make sure that you are filled. Be honest with yourself. If you're overwhelmed, say that. You don't have to admit it to anybody else, but admit it. Get it out there. Understand that you are overwhelmed. And once you have that conversation with yourself, okay, now me, LLE, younger self, how are we going to deal with this? Because you have it. It's there. Don't let it weigh you down to the point where like you're debilitated and you can't move and you can't go through your day. But yeah, I know what you mean when you say you're dealing with a lot and you're tired a lot. You just gotta figure out a way to face that. Get to the root of it. A philosopher once said, "Become friends with it." Welcome that depression, not in the sense of like I always want to be depressed, but become familiar with it, so that way when it comes, it's not like a monster or an enemy. No. It's that time of the month. Okay, come on, let's work this out, because it's coming. I know you are. I know you are. I can tell. Hi, Dion.
Hey. To Kat's point, it's important that you definitely produce a support system for yourself. Start a support group, create a family text thread with your closest cousins, your mom, your dad. Nurture relationships to other human beings, healthy relationships. None of us can do this alone, particularly in the West, being a minority within an oppressive system. It's difficult. You're overwhelmed by adulthood, overwhelmed by bills, overwhelmed by being responsible for you're fully responsible for your freaking livelihood. You know, these things.
Everything is on you.
I was shook and scared out of my mind. I mean, I was able to show up and show out and handle it when my time came to stand on my own, but it was a terrifying thing, and I had to have a support system to talk me through my anxiety, because it's just a reality to know that the rest of your life and everything that you need for yourself is literally on you to make freaking happen. But I also believe that this system has done a job on community. I don't necessarily believe that we were supposed to, per se, be doing this alone in the capacity in which we are. I really do believe I have more communal ideals about how we're supposed to be. And I think that it's difficult being Black and queer in America and dealing with all of the things that we do on a societal level, all the things we do within our own individual lives, and just trying to make it out of that fucking barrel and have some sense of financial stability, have security around
for sure
our livelihood, our health. I mean, America is at a point right now where it should be giving anybody anxiety. There's like literally war, famine, disease. There is a pandemic. There is unemployment. There is murder. There is racism. There is literally everything you can name. It's
literally everything.
Yeah,
it's crazy. LLE and Dion. To those points, I say boundaries. I had to establish some very healthy boundaries with my friends, my parents, and with myself. Boundaries will save your fucking and ashwagandha. I am not I'm not a spokesperson for this, but ashwagandha gummies. I get mine from a grocery store here in Texas called HEB, but I don't know where you can find them from. They're made by Goli. I love them. I love them. It really helps me to just kind of like center myself and just like, you know what? I'm not gonna let this get to me. It's natural. But boundaries are important, you guys. Very, very important. And you don't gotta be rude about the shit either. You can do it in love, but just be like, you know what? I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
It's okay to change. It's okay to grow. It's okay to outgrow. I'm not cool with all my family, and it's all love. Everybody has a certain place. Don't allow people to use you. You're not a doormat. You're not a doormat. And you got to take time for you. Like I was saying earlier, you can't pour from an empty cup. So you can't give anything to your parents or those kids if you have nothing to pour out.
And let me say this too, and I know I have a keener perspective, a different, wilder one, because like I don't come from the traditional family, setting. Yeah. I grew up in foster care, so a lot of my advice comes from a very fuck you kind of place. I don't really care, like family. When I hear people talk about family problems, it's just like I personally don't understand that tether because I haven't experienced that. So it's easier for me to just cut bitches off, like, or to not deal with certain people. Like, you don't exist to me, girl. Like, I don't. If it's not feeding me, if you're not positive, if I can't be honest, if I can't be upfront, if I can't pull you to the side and have a heart to heart or tell you the things that are going through my mind, my heart, my spirit, my soul, the good, the bad, and the ugly, then how can I call you family? How can I call you friend, brother, sister? I can't call you any of those things if I can't have those moments with you.
I think that's just relation. I think when I think of family, and this will hopefully help you understand, family to me is a lifelong friendship. If we've been cool, like Dunye is family, but he's family because we've been best friends since we were toddlers. That's my homie. That's my friend. I'm friends with people in my family, and those are my family. I'm related to others. But what triggers me is the siblings. Because I don't know if you know, Conscious, but I know you know, YB. I lost my siblings. I have another sibling that's like a half sibling, but I lost my blood siblings, both of them. So when I hear people arguing with their siblings, I'm just like, I understand, you know, that y'all have differences and shit happens, but I don't even have them to argue with. And especially if y'all grew up together. If y'all have had, you know, a distant or, you know, something distance y'all in time, I understand. If they did something that's unforgivable, I understand. But if you're just not talking to her because y'all didn't get along at the last cookout, then bitch, no. Get that shit together.
In LLE, I just want to say, baby, we get one life, and you have to remind yourself, and this is something I'm constantly doing too, to take the time to smell the fucking roses. And you know what's crazy is that's one of my things here too. One of my greatest mistakes was not taking in the little moments of life. Have you ever looked back on like previous what you thought was a small and meager, forgettable moment, and you were like, fuck, man, damn, like I really wish I would have appreciated that a little bit more. Yeah. Take the time, girl, smell the roses. Life is going to give you, it's literally a roller coaster of emotions and experiences and just all of these different things. And unfortunately, most of it's bad shit. And I feel like it's built that way. It's fucked up, but I feel like it's built that way so we can learn to appreciate even the littlest things that happen to us. Imagine humanity always being blessed to experience all goodness, girl. Do you know how more narcissistic we would be? Do you know how uncaring we would be in this life? We would have no sympathy or empathy for anyone in this life, girl, if we experienced all good things. So that's why I think the universe, Mother Nature, God, whoever the hell, the aliens, bitch, I feel like they really designed it this way to have more hell on earth than heaven, because when the little things come, like humanity should stop and smell the roses. I know I'm going a little left here, but I'm a Kung Fu fan, child. Y'all know I love my martial arts, child. I'm a big Jet Li fan, and he played in this movie called Fearless. Have y'all seen it?
No.
Okay, well, in the movie, he was this big tyrant in the beginning and always picked on as a kid child. He mastered all the, you know, the wonders child and ended up beating all these, became the biggest competitor in his little nation. He ended up killing someone, one of his old rivals who was really a good friend of his, all because of his pride. Well, when he banished himself from his little village child, he denounced everything, girl, and he went to work in this small village out in the yonder, girl. And every moment while they were out there planting their little seeds for their harvest and stuff, the entire group would stand up when the breeze would come and just take it in. And that moment in that movie really kind of stuck with me, because it's like, you have to appreciate just the little moments, even if it's just the wind brushing up against you, a cool breeze in a hot summer, bitch. You have no choice but to take it in and to appreciate it, girl. You have to. If you don't take that time for yourself to appreciate those small things, you'll forget what your whole existence is about. You really will. This fucking thing.
That is so true.
I wanted to say the catch point about family is that so one of my therapies is my Christian faith. Despite being a witch and practicing the dark arts, Christ is still the center of all of my cauldron, witchery, or ness. Is I like what he said about family. There was an instance in the New Testament where he was in a tent with one of his disciples, and somebody else ran in and said, "Hey, bro, your mother and your father. Your mother and your brother are outside." And Christ looked to him and said, my family are those who do my Father's will." And I thought that was I thought that was so powerful, because right there in the New Testament, Christ deconstructed conventional family. And what he ultimately said is that blood may be thicker than water, but what's thicker than blood is love. And in that way, you get to choose your family. Iyanla Vanzant also makes a great distinction between relatives and family. My family are those that love me, and I love them in return. And there's a mutual and reciprocal exchange. Within that family definition encompasses my friends, my spouses, my people I happen to also be related to. That can encompass anybody. My relatives specifically are those who I have a DNA match with, but my family are those who I match with in red blood. So I just want people who, because I know in the West we are like literally conditioned to like family, to obsess over family, to identify so much with family. You don't have any pressure and allegiance to anyone who brings harm to you emotionally, physically, spiritually, or mentally. And if that happens to be someone who you are related to, if it happens to be your mother who's doing that, your parents who are doing that, your brother, your sister, your aunties and uncles, fuck them hoes.
Yeah,
you do not have to accept that. I know that other narcissists within your family will tell you to do that by saying, well, that's your mom, you should. That's your dad, you should. Fuck them hoes too, okay? Because typically narcissists operate within a matrix with other narcissists, okay? So you're probably not going to find a lot of liberation from other relatives as it relates to other relatives. You don't need to. If your experience is harmful, remove those people from your life and don't look back, just like Lot didn't over Sodom and Gomorrah, baby. Run for your damn life.
Do not look back if you don't want to be turned into a assault. But I'm so glad you said that, because you used a quote that a lot of people misuse to try to, weaponize against you, and that is blood is thicker than water. A lot of people try to use that against you to say, hey, family comes first. But I learned this a year ago, and I had to look it up because I didn't want to fuck it up. That's not the full quote. The full quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So that means the bonds you create is thicker than the ones that were given to you genetically.
And if you ever really look at life, that's how it normally is, though. Even for the traditional people that grow up traditionally with family or brothers or sisters, you always fall away from that for some reason. You end up having your homeboys, your homegirls, and y'all have these life. That's why I tell this generation too, like, I think one of the biggest mistakes of this generation is no one has best friends anymore that they've grown up with. No one has those long-standing relationships because they're not valued anymore. All the relationships now are created through technology and social media and social apps.
People turn on people now, so it's like,
yeah,
I'm cool with people that I was, I came up with, but I really, either we took our own paths or I cannot trust them hoes no more. But that is true, because I remember you and I were talking, and we were just joking around one time, but I was like, bitch, if push come to shove, you can come here, bitch, we can hide the body. But then I also told you in the same breath that a certain relative could not come stay here. I told you that. And I meant that. He still cannot come stay here. So, and it's just the blood of the covenant being thicker than the water of the womb.
Mm-hmm.
The blood of bond.
That's why I tell these people, especially this generation, be mindful of who you're creating relationships with. That goes for friendships or intimate lovers, child. Like, you really want that loyalty, girl, that loyalty, that bond, that forever type of bond, because, girl, it's important. Trust me, a lot of the people that I know, I'm 34 now. I still have best friend relationships, people I was like 11 and 12 with. Like, you were just talking about, Darnier, how y'all were toddlers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I noticed this generation, like my nieces and nephews, they can't really say the same. They can't say the same. And sometimes it's situational environmental factors too. A lot of the girls be having to move all the time. They can't, like, for me, it was difficult. I'm actually surprised because I grew up in foster care and I moved around a lot. I went to a lot of different schools, child, growing up. So I'm surprised that I even have some of the, actually, you know what? Out of my whole life, only one bitch I'm friends with still from my high school days. Everybody else that I'm best friends with, I grew up with in foster care. I've known them since I
Y'all were like, I mean, loosely, but y'all were loosely like siblings, you know. So
We were, but it's crazy how I would meet these. That's really weird too, though. I met these people while I moved around from home to home to home to home to home. So it's weird. That's that. Hey, a revelation girl too over here. Maybe that was the sign too that you can. I was when you keep bumping into people at many different stages of your life, like it's something. There's a meaning behind that. So those people are like my closest round to this day. 17, 18 plus years of friendship.
Have you ever tested a friendship to see, like, I want to know if I can really trust you, if you really my down bitch, I'm going to throw this at you to see. Have you ever, like, tested a friendship?
I've never done that before. You know why? Because I feel like if you force someone to show themselves, you may not get what you really need. In time, all hidden things reveal themselves. Ooh, girl.
It's crazy that you said that because that's the way I am. I don't do the throw something out there. I'm very recluse. Like you'll know when we started talking, it was very surface level for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's like I could trust you. I became like this faucet of information because it's like I need to know that I can trust you. And now we got secrets that we taken to the grave. So it's like we need to, you know, it's hard to find genuine people out there, but they're out there.
You know, so you know how you know you've close with somebody, child, when you start talking about.
Don't go too far, bitch, because we are not on the phone, okay?
You know what? No, like little shit, like you could just fart on the phone, child, and the bitch be like, "Child, you just farted." I'm like, "Yeah, girl, I did, child."
Yeah,
just something small like that, child. Like you ain't, you know. You ain't
worried about insider, but girl, I know when you go on mute, bitch.
Girl, those be those bangers, girl. I'm trying to protect your eardrums, girl, and your smell, honey. Okay, even though it's through the phone, girl, them things be powerful, honey. For real. I wanted to also talk about something for me as well that was a part of a growing pain of mine. Not admitting when I wasn't ready for something. I feel like a lot of young people today, just like in our time, again, everything comes back around, girl. I feel like one of the things I felt pressured into a lot was sex. Sex for me was, I started early when I was 11, girl. And I know that I've told stories where I took pride in serving, trade, honey, at 11 years old. But really, when I look back on my life, and we've had this conversation privately and publicly, to where I felt like that was so detrimental to the rest of my life. And I know that in music and art and entertainment and, society now, we glorify, sexual acts and doing this and doing that. But I really do think starting young fucks with you psychologically. It messes up intimacy for you. It messes up future relationship building and what you covet and what you value, because even at 34 years old, my mind frame still goes back to what that dick hitting like.
Well, that I think
before I even ask anything else.
I'll say this though. I wouldn't say that it fucked you up. I just think that just like smoking cigarettes, it's just a habit that you need to break. I just think replace that habit with something else. Once you find somebody meaningful and worthy of holding on to, hello God, then I don't think you will have that. And even if you do have that, that's your man. So if you ask him what that dick can like, he gonna hit you with that dick.
But so when that becomes more important than the actual getting to know someone and doing the steps of courting and things of that nature, I feel like that does mess people like myself up from being able to establish meaningful connections with people.
I think, first of all, you have to actually want the connection. I think if you just want the sex, then that's all you're going to go for. You have to.
But I think even learning, I never allowed myself to learn those things. I observe those things and I know what a good successful relation looks like, hello God, but to feel that for myself, I relate everything to sex.
Maybe it's because you are already going in subconsciously with the belief that the other people are also not interested in a more substantive experience of you.
I'm like that with looks. I think that I have to be my best looking self always when I'm in public, and I feel like he should be too. So now, in a weird way, and I'm putting myself out on blast, I'm a little vain when it comes to dating men because I'm just like, are those Skechers? Like I don't, I don't know. That's something I need to work on.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is. It definitely is.
I mean, yeah, you have to be mindful. And don't take being impressioned. That's why I tell young people they always want to. We know everything, girl, this and that. But you don't understand that your young minds are very impressionable, and that leads on to adulthood too. Throughout the rest of your life, if you don't learn to get a grip on yourself. Again, I'm 34. I'm still trying. I recognize it. I'm not gonna say I'm doing my best, girl, because
you recognize it, and that's the
I'm recognizing it's something. Yeah. I want to work on that. I want to become more effective. That way, I'm not one of these old queens out here questioning, am I going to get married? Am I going to be able to have a successful relationship? Because, girl, all I'm worried about is, what Tyrone is bringing to the cookout. And it better be sausage.
I think toyed with the idea for a while, but because
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Joshua, no, honey, I was not molested.
No. Oh God, no. But I toyed with the idea for a while, but I God is very serious with answering prayers. So when you ask for a serious relationship and to change, he's going to present you with multiple opportunities to change. And the reason why I say that is it's going to be tempting. A whole lot of niggas is going to come your way, and you're going to have to choose to get to know them as opposed to dicking them down, or the inverse. But, it's a process. It's definitely a process. With anything, it's a process. Just with my thought process, it was a process. I had to change the way I thought about things. Now that I carry myself a different way and I'm less conscious about what other people are thinking, now the niggas are coming out of the woodworks because I carry a confidence about myself that they want to be a part of. But yeah, it's a process. Be serious about it. And I think pour into you first. The more you just don't focus on, okay, I just don't want to fuck anymore. I want a relationship. No. Date yourself. Be in love with yourself. And once you pour that love into yourself, that shit will radiate and niggas will come to you like flies to sardines. I'm telling you.
What's funny about
I'm sorry, Constance, 1 second. I want to clarify something because I did sit here and laugh as I talked about what Joshua asked me. I don't find that funny because a lot of people in my life have dealt with stuff like that. And I'm truth and justice and I advocate that. I do want to say this though, because of how I started that at 11, in a way, it could have been that way because I told a story publicly before. I think, Joshua, you're a part of that conversation because you're part of my many freaky conversations. I was 11. He was 18. He coerced me into it. He said there was candy involved. Girl, I said yes. So in a way, it could have been that way, but I enjoyed it, girl. I enjoyed it.
Allegedly, that's considered SR.
Yeah.
What's SR?
Statutory.
Oh, okay.
Very much so. If you were 18.
But let me ask y'all, Joshua's question is kind of interesting. Who do y'all think gets to decide it's abuse? Is it the situation itself, or do the people involved get to decide that it's abuse? Like, because I have a friend who he recounts an ancestral relationship to one of his cousins, where that's how he was introduced to same-sex activities. His cousin, made him engage in that stuff. And the interesting thing is that my friend.
Say that again. And who is that?
My friend.
Okay.
I'm gonna forfeit names for the sake of forfeiting names.
Okay.
But
you're fine.
He identifies as straight. He identifies as straight, but he was introduced to same-sex activities by way of an older cousin who started introducing that into his experience. And I'm talking about like penetration, oral sex, the whole nine. And my friend actually he enjoyed that experience. He knows that
As we
it
all do.
was,
It's God.
you know, like he knows what was inappropriate about the whole ordeal. And I think that they both were kids. He was just younger. I think his cousin was an older teenage boy, and he was a younger boy at that time. So when people hear him speak about this experience, people also be like, that's SR, not SR, but that's molestation. That's RAPE. But who do y'all think is to decide that? If the person actually like
the person receiving it, I think legally it is what it is. But as far as like charges and getting the police involved, if it's consensual, as freaky as it sounds, that's y'all business. If ain't nobody getting hurt, little man ain't go and tell his parents, I'm hurt by Uncle Charlie. Him and Uncle Charlie cool. I'll see you at the next gathering. You know? I don't. Yes, it is. It absolutely is, but I don't know. That's hard to say. Because I personally, the man, doesn't feel any way about it. The cousin has gone on about his business. Yes, they could open a case and he could go to jail. But why?
What are we talking about here? Like, are we talking about like some?
In your situation, would it be called SR? Would you consider that SR? And if so, who gets to make that call? You or the 18-year-old?
I mean, but in his case, we're talking about family, though.
What's the difference?
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, the incest of it all.
Cousins.
I feel. I'm on the fence. I agree with you, Kat, but I'm also on the fence too. I'm like you. What age range are we talking about here? Not emotionally or mentally or psychologically ready to receive that kind of experience? Like how young are we talking about, Conscious? Did it start?
How young was he?
I think that my friend was 9 and his cousin was like 14, 15 at the time.
They were both kids.
They were both underage.
So that changes a lot too.
Because something else that we don't talk a lot about as a culture is child on child.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Kids.
That was
engaged.
I mean,
cousins play house.
I've loved house. Come yonder, honey. Family matters, girl. Hello, God. Let me stop. Oh my God, they're gonna cancel me. Oh, this sounds so horrible. But girl, I'm all kinds of feelings.
So you're gonna cancel both our shows?
I mean,
I can understand that.
This is what I'm going to say to each of them.
That's how you feel. He got to go. If you found out about it, he got to go. But what if Uncle Charles and said person have been doing this the whole time, and y'all still don't know? We only know because Conscious just told us. What if the family of these two individuals still don't know? I don't know. Now, if he out doing this to multiple little people, then that's a problem.
If we lived in like Greece, all those moons ago, child, then this probably wouldn't even be a conversation.
Mexico! 9-year-olds are marrying 26-year-old men. Yeah. And having full families. Legally.
That's another roundtable discussion, but I mean, I just chalk it up to child as long as, like you said, if no one's getting hurt, girl, and bitch, I want people to know this no means no. Period.
Yeah.
Like, no doesn't mean yes, no doesn't mean maybe, no means no. And I hope that's different because you're talking about two minors, but if we're talking about someone who's extremely older and then we have an extreme minor, that's obviously illegal as fuck and very nasty as a motherfucker. And that person will burn in the lake of fire for eternity, girl. And God bless.
That's disgusting.
Cause
So
y'all
I mean,
heard about the other story of the pastor who married the 18-year-old recently. I think he's like 60 or 70 or something, and
well, they're
his wife.
18.
Girl, who wants to inherit a fucking
You
church?
legal.
And I'm a Christian. Thank you, Jesus. But who?
You legal. When I'm 60 years old, y'all better watch out.
Y'all like know something
I'm
even
trying to
more
get all your
controversial.
sons, bitch.
She is a cougar, child.
I'm just playing.
He is not.
Something even more controversial than that is, do y'all know that the historical biblical Mary was also allegedly a young underage virgin at the time that she conceived the Holy Spirit child? She was said to be 13, 14 years of age
Yeah,
I heard
when
that.
she was impregnated by the Holy Spirit.
I heard that. The Holy Spirit didn't give
and
a
the
damn
Holy
about
Spirit is
age.
a grown man.
The Holy Spirit said, age ain't nothing but a number, and it ain't nothing but a thing.
It wasn't sexual. It was just.
Come on, the Holy Spirit said, child, we finna come over here and come into young fish, child, and we're gonna get her preggers with the sun, honey. Yes.
That's why he looked at her and said, he called her woman at some point about him.
Well, I do find this interesting because when we talk about a woman's body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Technically, once this is what I learned in schools, and forgive me if I'm overstepping because I don't know women like that, child. But from what I learned, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, once they start developing periods, that's when they have reached maturity to be able to give birth, correct?
Yeah, that is true.
In most countries, most societies, most cultures, at that point is when they're trying to marry them bitches off for either land or, you know, some type of peace treaty agreement, girl, or some type of something like that. So,
back in the biblical days, these motherfuckers lived hundreds of years. They lived a long time.
And that's if that's even the truth, girl. If you ask me, oh, we're gonna get into a whole other conversation. Actually, you know what? I might say that for the very last episode of this season.
Now she quotes
weird shit. Because one of the things that I find extremely if you guys truly do believe, fucking God, we'll save that. We'll save that for another time. I don't want to go into that too much. Because you asked something. Think about this real quick. I'm just gonna put something. A penny for your thoughts, people. Don't jump down me.
Bring Aretha Franklin into this.
Imagine this: when you look at the whole idea of the Holy Spirit coming down from the heavens and impregnating fish, isn't it almost reminiscent of UFOs abducting a bitch and doing God knows what to them and then sending them back here?
It is. This is an alien, foreign entity interacting with a human woman, and yeah.
And they probably, because she was young, she was healthier than the rest of those desolate. Huh?
We really gonna refer to Jesus' birth mom as fish?
I mean, that's what YB referring to her as.
I refer to as fish, child. Homegirl.
She is.
I can see you in Egypt in fucking Jerusalem sandals saying puss ass hoe. You gonna have to. I can see you doing that.
I couldn't imagine. That would be such a great skit, though. Imagine like a comedy vibe, like all of us, like are the wise girls, honey. You know, not the wise men, but the wise girls. You know what I'm saying? Prancing around, girl. And I would love to be what was that bitch's name who was bringing the girls back to life? Methuselah? Was it Methuselah or
I don't think I would survive slavery or biblical times. Y'all gonna have to kill me because I'm just not doing it. But then again, we're fair skinned, so I love y'all chocolate people, but more than likely we gonna be inside. But I building and working for 400 years in the heat, and y'all ain't even got no Beyonce to play to keep me motivated. Like,
Girl, didn't they
Dude.
say Moses had, when he walked with the children, it was like for God knows how long, and they only could survive off of like yeast and God knows what. I was like,
First of all, it took him 400 years to come. So let's start there. Moses eventually came, but we were in bondage for 400 years.
that's a long
Then
edge session.
And then you take me, this has got to be blind faith. Then you say, okay, I'm going to rescue y'all. And you take me to a fucking river and expect me to walk through it? I would have said, you know what, Moses? Bitch, you didn't waste enough of my motherfucking time today. But, you know, of course, he stuck the stake into it and it split. I wouldn't have. Then I don't even know if I would have walked through that.
If you would have saw a power that extreme, you would have had total faith that everything was going to be.
I think I probably would have, but as equally by me just being who I am, y'all probably would have had to carry me through that bitch because I probably would have just passed.
I believe that part.
Like, oh my God.
Come on, Cat.
I thought someone would catch that, Dion. Hello, God.
What did he say?
Hold on one second, guys.
Mm-hmm. Somebody trying to get your attention on that last comment, Cat. MD Doc.
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't ignorant though. It was factual. In the slave times, the light-skinned people were inside. That was the truth. I love your dark skin.
Them house niggas.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's not ignorant. It's ignorant of you to not know that information in 2022. That's the truth. Love you. But yeah. I just hearing those stories, I'm just like, wow.
Do you believe that any of that shit ever actually happened? Because there's no historical.
I'm gonna put it like this. Like, and I had a really deep conversation with my dad. I really feel like the Bible is another book. I don't think it's supposed to be taken so literally. Like, we're supposed to learn from it and apply those practices and these stories to our lives and alter them to our situations. But do I believe a burning bush was talking? I don't know. Like, I believe in Jesus, and I believe that the whole burial, resurrection. I believe all of that happened. But girl, I just
These are all fables. These are all stories. These are all fantasy books of fiction, girl. I believe that some of this stuff can be truth, but I look at the Bible as just a way to push and force. Because again, we have this conversation a lot of times over here, and my biggest argument is this: the first language was not English. The first language is actually a dead language that no one can fucking decipher at all right now. So if that is the case, how do we really know that what we're reading today is in fact real? We know man manipulates everything. Male supremacy runs rampant throughout all of history, girl. They took everything from us, but they'll give us that.
As we slay is in the building.
As we slay, we forgot about tomorrow as we slay.
I have missed you,
baby.
But I tell people all the time, and they get mad at me, but I only focus on the words in red. So if Jesus said, cool,
But how do we know the words in red? The words in red are under the same argument that I just gave, though.
I'm going to be honest.
But what supports my argument is that the words in red support everything about me. The words in red don't condemn me to hell. The words in red don't say all of these things that y'all say the Bible says. None of that is in red. So if we want to quote Bible, let's quote
What
Jesus.
about this thought? Have we ever thought about this? Who has reigning supreme over earth? Who has power over earth?
God.
No. He does, but who has power over earth?
The white man? Is that what you're saying?
The devil.
Really?
Imagine, think about it. You're casted down somewhere, and every time we look at the devil, we look beneath our feet, right? Mm-hmm. So if he's casted down somewhere and he has dominion over this world the way that you think it's supposed to be, right? What if the Bible is just another form of manipulation? Because even in the Bible, it says that the devil will come to you as if he is God. He is the master trickster of the poisonous, the confusion of it all. So what if everything we're doing right now is in service of the devil, and we're just being tricked?
I think once you have an interaction with Jesus and God and that Holy Spirit, you know the difference between that voice and the devil. Like you feel something. God, when God speaks to you, it's a voice, but you don't hear it. You feel it. When it's the devil, you literally hear it. I have heard, because I guess God sounds different to all people, but to me, I figured the physical voice of God was this strong Morgan Freeman male dominating.
It's a queen to me.
So that's what I hear when I'm being
hard.
by the devil. When I'm being judged by the devil, I hear that mean voice. But if I'm hearing from God, it's a feeling. I just know. When I joined church, it wasn't like God saying, "You need to get up, cat." I felt like it's time. My spirit felt it. The devil can't get here. He can only get here and here. He can't.
Let me ask you this question. What about this thought process that the devil is only our guilty consciences, our dark sides, our alter egos, our spiritual manifestations of all the misdeeds that really, because think about life is duality, period. That's the constant. That's the constant of life, is there's always going to be duality. So what if the devil is just a pure manifestation of all the negative stuff that actually dwells within us as human beings?
I can believe that. Janae Aiko, I guess that's how you say her name. She actually said in a song that I really love that hell is not a place. Hell is not a certain evil. Hell is other people. And I can believe that. I can believe that we're also living in hell. Because if this is what he's gonna come after, if this is where the Bible says the devil's gonna come here after Armageddon, everybody get raptured up. This is where he's gonna dwell, not hell. This is gonna be hell. So I feel like this is it,
Just think about that. Why does this have to be why does the earth have to be the rapture? The final place where those who are worthy get lifted up and those who are condemned to hell stay here. So there has to be a way, if that's what the Bible says, right? So we're going to lean on that understanding. Let's lean on the fact that, girl, they're being left behind. And if one day in heaven is 1,000 years on earth and they'll be transformed, you could place a baby next to a lion. That means that God allowed him to reign supreme for them 1,000 years, child, while he lets it get it out of his system and he eradicates the evil. And now we can come back peaceful and lambs can lay next to lions, right? So that means that earth has to be the true hell.
Yeah.
Period.
I believe that. And I believe that how you trek through the journey determines like that final essay that gets you in or not, but I also don't believe you have to be perfect. I just believe that you ultimately just have to try to be a good fucking person. Just be your best self.
Yeah, I keep having these moments, right? And I have one more thing to say about this. What if the greatest trick is that we don't have to be perfect? Because when you think about life and all of the evil, raggedy, misdeeding ass motherfuckers, all of those people try to be perfect. Pastors, all of these people of notoriety, entertainers. Come to find out, we pull the layers back on their life. Y'all are some filthy, filthy, filthy fuckers, honey.
And not just that, I'll even take it. I'll take it a step further. I've known some actual angels in my life, actual close to perfect people. Love them, but in the grand scheme of things, how much did you live? You were so concerned about trying to color inside the lines and be so perfect. You didn't live at all. And I'm sorry. I serve a God and I understand that we're supposed to turn away from sin, but I would rather ask for forgiveness than be on my deathbed and I wish. That's the reason why when they go up in church, I can be like, because I know my path, because bitch, I lived. Amen. And a part of me is gonna live to a certain degree, But I just, I don't think we're supposed to be perfect. Just be good. I think just be. Stop trying to exist as or put any extra pressure on. Just exist. That should be enough. How you just show up in the world should be enough. That should just exude natural kindness, natural grace, natural love, natural forgiveness. Yes, we get mad because we're human. But these grudges, this anger, this murder, this malice, all of this shit is taught. Look at these babies. Babies don't give a fuck what color you are. If you fun to be around, I want to play with you. Pick me the fuck up. That's who we are.
The one thing I do lean on is if Jesus is a real person and it's a real journey, a real experience, right? The only thing that he cared about, and the only thing that people around him cared about is how he treated other people. That was his walk. That's what he represented that's why, isn't that one of the golden rules? Treat others how you would want to be treated and all that, right? Period. treat people with kindness, child. There you go. That's the key to life right there.
So one of the golden mystical rules is do what thou will, but cause no harm to self or to any other. But do what thou will. And for me, as an astral projector, I absolutely believe in a hell. I have passed through spaces within consciousness that look and feel like what people would call or describe as hell. So by B's point, because we live in a dualistic reality, I believe that hell and or Satan are just representations of the shadow side of the cosmic realm. Just like we all as individuals have a shadow self, America also has a shadow body. The humanity as a whole has a collective shadow self. So that shadow definitely exists dimensionally.
Like the dark web.
Yeah. So I like to think of hell as the universe's septic tank. It's kind of where antimatter. No,
the universe's dungeon.
It's not where you shit. It's where the shit
is.
But really, what hell is, it's just a raw, primordial realm before form, before love. It's just void. It's just raw ingredients, and so it's a very intense dimensional space that becomes refined through the journey and self-actualization of love. But I myself definitely believe in hell. I don't know if I believe in a devil. I believe in devils. I believe that, to Kat's point, the devil is more of like a state of consciousness, and anybody can inhabit that. And I also believe that there are astral entities that probably have their origins in the lower astral realms. So they appear to us as demonic entities or demonic and evil beings. So, but that shadow polarity, I definitely believe in.
Amen.
I also believe like sometimes people can kind of be possessed. But a lot of times, like, cause I've been watching like a lot of murder documentaries and stuff, and people who admit to the crime often say like, I kind of blacked out. You know, I didn't. You know, so I believe in possession, but I also believe in good and bad possession. Because I've been caught up in the spirit in church and didn't realize none of what I was doing, and I saw it back on tape and was like, what the fuck? Like, So I think sometimes it's just like I like how you mentioned it, like a portal almost. Like when you open yourself up to that energy, it can flow either way, you know. So I think a lot of times, like, you just kind of have to guard, you know. Erica De Niro says it all the time, protect your energy. You know, like you have to protect your peace in your realm because you can leave yourself vulnerable to a lot of things. You know, if you opening yourself up to God and to the positive things of life, your portal is still open for negativity to get in. So you just have to just be aware, you know. Educate yourself in your own way. If reading the Bible is not your thing, then you can educate yourself in a different way. And just go with what works for you. I'm a full foot thumping Christian, but I have stones. You know, and I believe in meditation, and I believe in, and I actually like, I'm a Christian with like Buddhist practices, if that makes any sense. Like, and I actually believe my mom was like, oh my God, don't tell your daddy, because my daddy is a lot more conservative than my mom. I believe Jesus was a Buddhist. And I believe that, you know, he was just, you know, he had a group of people that just wanted to follow him, you know, and his beliefs. So we took his last name and just like Buddha, Christ.
Wherever he may go, a mountain so high you can say.
Look at the words of fucking again. Damn. He don't know the words of shit. Not even Mariah's song.
All right, well, this brings this episode to a close. You guys have any final words that you'd like to give the people before we get up out of here?
LLE, Dion. I was trying to take names of people, and Josh. Like, no lie, I'm not just joking. I'm going to pray for y'all because I know what that feels like. I know what that pressure is like. And a lot of times, you know, if somebody kind of intercedes, stands in the gap for you and prays for you, it kind of like, you know, helps the situation just to give you some peace and just to know that somebody's on your team. If that's all it does for you. But I'm definitely going to pray for y'all because I hate what y'all was going to do.
Amen. Conscious.
Growing pains are a part of life. Don't shun your sadnesses. There's information in our grief. There's information in our sadnesses. All these things are a part of our soul work here. So it's really just about, don't define yourself by your experiences. Just look for the information and the wisdom and the enlightenment within those experiences, because everything is mirroring ourselves back to us. Our responses is information. Our feelings are information. So just look at life as more of informational than anything else. Try not to personalize your life experiences. The universe is not picking on you. To everybody's point here, we've all been through it. Everybody experiences their fair share of rejection. Everybody experiences their fair share of it all. Just love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Try to be as kind as you can to others. And just, once again, try not to personalize your negative experiences because they can fuck around and start defining you. And then you become the negative in those negative experiences. You become the fear in those fearful experiences. So,
and one more thing, I'm sorry to interject again, but depression, how can I put this? Have hope. Because a lot of times depression is a dark abyss. So if you don't catch yourself, you'll go deeper and deeper and deeper down. If you decide tomorrow, I'm gonna make a change, I'm gonna, be positive and, start coming out of this thing. Remember, you're still in a dark abyss. So even though you're climbing to the top, it's going to be a while before you see the light. It does not mean that you are not climbing. It does not mean that you are not making progress. It's just going to take a while before you see the light. You'll see that light eventually, and it'll get brighter and brighter and brighter, and before you know it, you're out of the hole. But it's not instant. It's not instant. I will tell anybody that. It's not compared to going to the gym. I've been going to the gym a full year, and I'm just now starting to see results. Be consistent with it. Even if you don't feel like it, be positive just for the sake of you deserve to have a good day. And eventually that'll become a habit, not dealing with depression.
Yeah. I want to kind of add to that too. A lot of us in the West define love as being more so of an emotional thing, but just like we were talking about, evil is, or hell is a state of consciousness. Love is a psychology too. Don't understand that it's not just about your feeling. Like, love is also by the effort you make for yourself, to Kat's point. So love yourself enough to do what you should do regardless of how you feel about it. You have to understand that love is a mindset as well. It's love is what you use to push yourself past your limits, to push yourself beyond your barriers, to reach beyond your laziness, your procrastination, that's that force that's encouraging that, and live more in support of the things that reinforce that psychology, whether that's changing up your friendship group, changing up the type of shit that you read and watch, because a lot of that has to do too with our strength and or our weaknesses. So supportive thought, supportive narrative, supportive people, they encourage supportive living. Like, I feel more driven in my life primarily because I'm just am that, but also I've literally intentionally cultivated a supportive environment. I've cultivated aligning myself with people who are in it, baby, they on it, and it just inspires me. It keeps me on my grind, keeps me on my hustle, keeps me working hard, looking at other people work hard. So what you're looking at and what you're investing your energy to has a lot to do with the energy that you're getting back in return.
Amen. And y'all can help. by getting the word out. Share it. We all have smartphones. Y'all can screen record y'all favorite part, put it on y'all social media, put it on y'all stories, get the word out. I mean, we have only so much reach. I mean, we popping, but we ain't famous yet, y'all. So yeah, I can help out. Share it. If you have an account on YouTube, share it to your community wall. Tell somebody else about it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, y'all. And my final words are this quote. You know, I end every show with a quote, and I believe this quote kind of sums up everything I feel and everything that encompassed this topic for tonight. And this quote is brought to you by Robert Greene. And it states, often the greater obstacle to our pursuit of mastery comes from the emotional drain we experience in dealing with the resistance and manipulations of the people around us. If we're not careful, our minds become absorbed in endless political intrigues and battles. Hello, God.
Yeah.
And I want to say this too, to piggyback off that, of the absorption of it all. You have to be mindful who you're around in this life, because you will unknowingly sometimes absorb their energies. Hello, God. Even the Bible, we're going to lean on the Bible, right? Even the Bible, I think it's the book of Proverbs, says, be mindful of who you, what is it? I don't know word for word, child, but I know it talks about be mindful of being friends with someone who's easily angered, because you'll unknowingly, child, you, girl, I summed it up. Shit, I don't know the fucking scripture, bitch, but
birds of a feather flock together. Just again,
yeah.
Energy. I was in a situation where somebody came around me, sucked me for all of my energy, and just dipped, ghosted me.
Yeah,
it comes to just that.
I think that the Bible also is very clever in that way, in recognizing that we all have these traits, which is why we have to be careful. We all have the capacity to be petty, to be jealous, to be in our lower nature, and associating with other people who are actively in their lower nature can stimulate our own lower nature. It's not that they make us lower. This is already something that's fundamental universally to the way we are designed, as having both a light body and a pain body, so, or a light body and a dark body. So your environment is important, because as we said here today, that pendulum swings from left to right, and depending on what you look at and what spaces you in will stimulate that pendulum to the left or stimulate it to the right. So be intentional in your living.
Yeah.
Amen. Josh, I don't know about that situation, but I'll try to catch up on it.
It was on TikTok. I've been trying to watch a video on it, but nobody's made like a story about it. It was an influencer. She stabbed her black. It was a white girl who stabbed her and killed her black boyfriend.
And she hasn't been charged. She hasn't been charged, and she was sentenced to like a 5150 hole or some shit. But my judgment is, may all Karens burn in the eternal fire of hell.
Okay. All right, y'all. Well, we're going to get up out of here. I do appreciate everyone for tuning in, and for the people that'll be catching the replay, I appreciate you guys. Please continue.
We're all sending love to TREMEL. He's not here with us, but we are sending love to him.
Yeah. He's fine. Child, he out. Ike, shout out to Ike from Chasing Atlanta. He's having a listening party tonight. So TREMEL is over there supporting his brother and singing Christ, honey. And make sure that my husband Ike is taken care of, and that no one is trying to. Brother? Since Dallas ain't coming back, I gotta find another husband. Shit.
So you're okay. Also, you are into dating women now.
Don't do my man like that, bitch. Just because he was wearing that ugly ass organza in that confessional does not mean that he's a woman now. Love you guys. But guys, everyone's link again is in the description box. Please support their individual platforms, honey. Hello, God, and make sure we have 2 more episodes left. Hello, God, and this season will be done, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like broccoli. Hello, God. All right, y'all. Be blessed and never stressed, and remember that health is wealth. And again, thank you guys so much for tuning in and loving on us, honey, because we love you. All right. Take care, y'all. Bye.